Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing a tier list for the greatest male vocalists. Now for this kind of list, I'm really keeping it to greatest, meaning influential vocalists who are able to transcend their genre, whatever that was, and become real influencers, great vocalists that were just known for their voice across genres. And because of that, you'll see a whole bunch of vocalists missing from this list. Great vocalists like, I don't know, Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden or Jeff Tate from Queensryche, because they're very genre specific, loved in the metal scene, and would rival, if not beat, a lot of these singers, but nonetheless weren't able to translate that great technique kind of to be a phenomenal influential force kind of across cultures, across genres. So this list is greatest vocalists that kind of reach out and expand across the world in that way. I've got a few categories here, a vocal and historical legend. So the greatest tier are those singers, those vocalists who are not just vocal legends, like their technique, their sound is just absolutely world class, but their influence was second to none. Now, an S tier vocalist, I've put second place, are people that vocally actually might be on the same level as this top tier, but they don't have the historical kind of influence. They haven't been revered to that level. Whether it's because their albums didn't sell as well or whatever. They're phenomenal vocalists, very great, very influential, but not quite on that top echelon, even though their voices are fantastic. Now, the next one down is what I've got, influential genius. That is someone who's got such an iconic voice and it's brilliant and it's influential, but really their genius doesn't come out of their voice alone. It might be their songwriting, it's their persona, that their vocal technique might not be absolutely world class, but their sound might be. Next is a great vocalist, someone who's just really great, like just really, really great. It kind of speaks for itself. And finally, good but overrated. There's no bad singers on this list. So if I put this in good but overrated, what I mean by that is, yeah, they're amongst the 0.1% best singers in the world, but maybe they've just been popped up a bit too high. Maybe they're really not on the same level as the other ones, even though they're great. That's why I've got no bad tier, because we're talking about the best of the best. Here we go. Let's kick off with Michael Bublé. Okay, good vocalist, great vocalist. He has a great sound, great control over his voice, great low mid-range. Although I would say that really he just takes what other great crooners before him, Frank Sinatra, for instance, he takes from them and just, does it in a more modern way. He also has some more pop-orientated songs where he changes the sound a bit, but his vocals, good. But really, people that say he's really in the upper echelon, I wouldn't agree with that. So unfortunately, even though he's great, I'm going to have to put him in great but overrated when we're talking about these greatest of all time. Okay, next up. Now, I think this is Adam Levine. If it's not, I'm going to be rating Adam Levine. So let's all just pretend that's Adam Levine if it's not. This is a tough one because he is a great vocalist. Maroon 5 and his solo stuff have put out some phenomenal songs. He's got a good range, very influential. But amongst the best of the best, I wouldn't call him an influential genius. I think that's too much. He's certainly not an S-tier vocalist. He's not, but he's a great vocalist. I think it's selling him short to say he's good but overrated. I think he's rated about right for how good he is. So I'm going to put Adam Levine in great vocalist. Okay. Now, next up, I couldn't tell who this was, and there was a singer I really wanted to rate. So I'm going to rate our Muse singer, Matt Bellamy, even though he normally plays guitar. So that's a bit missing from here. So let's pretend that this here is Matt Bellamy. The reason I wanted to do that is I wanted to chat with you guys about that, because Matt Bellamy from Muse is such a strange singer, because he's considered to be a singer by many on the level of someone like Freddie Mercury almost. But actually, his vocal technique is leagues apart from those kind of vocalists. It's nowhere near that level. He sings with some pretty powerful mid-range, but it's really not that high. He just makes it sound operatic, but it's really quite upper mid-range. And then he's got a really cool, interesting falsetto sound that he saturates with distortion to make it sound more epic than it is. But at the same time, his songwriting and his musicality as a guitar player, as a piano player is S tier. It's like next level. So he's a creative vocalist because technically he's actually, and this is going to sound bad, but technically he's not that great. But creatively, he's a genius. So I always get really conflicted when people say, put him on that really upper echelon, because it kind of depends what you mean. But I would have to say that he's an influential genius. His vocal technique really isn't in the upper echelon, let's be frank. He never hit above an A, I don't think, in a mixed voice or in a chest voice, which with good vocal technique you should be able to do. But he's got a really cool falsetto, great songwriting. Next up we have David Bowie. Whew. Cool sound, great songwriting, another great creative force, but his singing really isn't that great in terms of pitch, in terms of technique. What do you do with someone like this? Greatest vocalist, many would consider him to be up there, depending on how you define great. I'm going to have to put him with influential genius. I can't say he's overrated, and I can't call him great, but he certainly isn't up here. So let's put him as an influential genius. Next up, Paul McCartney. He just goes straight there. He's on the next level up from, say, David Bowie vocally. He's a really good vocalist, but he'd be up here. Let's also rate them accordingly. Let's actually do this. So we'll put him at the top of influential genius. If he'll move there. There we go. Top of influential genius. I think that's fair. Okay, next up. One of my favorites, Freddie Mercury. Now, you might think that this is actually an easy decision, but, Freddie as a vocalist sounded phenomenal, but his technique wasn't great live, and he would have the highest highs and the lowest lows vocally. And a lot of that does come down to smoking and drinking and sleeping habits and touring and all of that. So it's kind of hard to judge because he was singing live prolifically at an era before in-ears and all those lifestyle things. His vocals, particularly on albums and also on occasions live, were just so good. Such good vocal performances, so creative, so historic, so influential, that even though he is an influential genius, I think his vocals actually are a level above, who we've got here as a vocalist, and he's too much of a legend to be S tier. So Freddie Mercury goes in the highest tier. He's a vocal and historical legend. Ed Sheeran, a little bit more modern, although he's been around for a little while now. He's a great singer-songwriter, particularly the modern era. I'd rate him quite highly. He's got a good voice, very good, very competent, great sound. He is much more than just a vocalist. That's where these lists become tricky. But I would say if we're just looking at greatest vocalist category, I don't think he's an influential genius. His songs are pretty straightforward. He's got a lot of talent, but that's too high. And I even think great vocalist is probably too high a praise as well. I would say good but overrated as a vocalist, not as a singer-songwriter, because that's a bit of a different thing, because his songwriting and his creativity comes into it. But as a vocalist, in terms of his sound, I would say he's very good, but he really takes from other singers that were before him and just improves on it. So I'm going to put him in probably above Michael Bublé in good but overrated. Next up, we have Axl Rose. Another one where, shone very brightly for a short period of time and then fell from grace very quickly. Very influential, very iconic, but it was, let's be honest, it wasn't for very long. And his live vocals were very good for a very short period of time and then took a nosedive. He's actually gotten a little bit better, like he's gotten his voice back in shape. But in terms of greatest vocalist, people put him up there, but I don't know if it's really fair how high a praise he gets when he's compared to others. But I still think it's unfair to put him in good but overrated. I'm going to put him as a great vocalist, and I'm going to put him above Adam Levine. Justin Bieber. This is where this is where I can get myself in trouble, because everyone just wants to slag him off because he was young and whatever else. but his voice was very accurate is what I'd say. He's got a very accurate voice. He doesn't have the biggest range, but great sound, great tone, great runs. Yes, he uses auto-tune a lot and da-da-da-da-da, but I mean, that's just the era we live in. We've just got to keep up with the times. Even without all those tools, he is still a very accurate, phenomenal singer. He's been very influential. Is he overrated? I don't know. I mean, probably in some ways, but not in others. I almost think he's a great vocalist. But how does he compare to like Michael Bublé and Ed Sheeran? He's probably on their level. I think he's rated about right, maybe overrated in some ways, and then underrated in other ways by others. So this is super tough. He's really on the borderline. I'm going to put him at the top of good, but overrated. He is good. He does deserve, in some ways, to be on this list, which is a bit controversial, but he's good. All right, Marvin Gaye. What a influential, what a soulful sound, what a textured sound. These kind of vocalists, very hard to rate. I'm going to have to put him in influential genius. His range and technique probably can't be said to be S tier, or I can't put him in S tier. The only other place I could put him is vocal and historical legend, which is true to some degree. I'd say he's definitely historical singer-songwriter legend, but is he a vocal legend? Do you look at his vocal technique and go, wow, he's a legend? I probably don't think you can, even with that iconic voice, which is why I created this influential genius category. I don't think he's up with Paul McCartney, but I think he's above Matt Bellamy. So let's put him there. Mitch Grassi, known for his singing in the Pentatonics. He's somewhere between great and S tier. He's not an influential genius with his musicality, and he's certainly not overrated. I'm going to put him at the top of, maybe he is S tier. Oh, this is a tough one. He's got a great range. He's got great power. I'm going to put him in S tier. He's a great vocalist. He's got a great technique. That's why I put that category there. Yep, so let's leave him there. Okay, Prince. He's an influential genius. I do think his vocals are overrated. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think his vocals are overrated, but I don't think his creativity is overrated. I don't think his persona is overrated. And I certainly don't think his songwriting is overrated. He is an artist. He is more than a vocalist. But if we're looking at greatest vocalist, that's our category, then let's put him in influential genius. He's somewhere around here. Not on the level of Paul. Somewhere around Marvin Gaye. Certainly above Matt Bellamy. Let's put him here. Let's put David Bowie above Matt Bellamy as well. I think that's fair. Thanks for watching part 1 of my greatest male vocalist tier list. Part 2 is going to come out tomorrow, or if you're watching in the future, it'll be in the pinned comment below. Thanks guys. Look forward to seeing you there.